The repair guy locked the shop door and didn't blink. He just whispered those 9 words. On my sister's phone, 3 scheduled texts were a countdown to my disappearance. I rushed home. By the time I finished changing the locks, a stranger had already tried one of my keys in the door. My name is Cassidy Barnes. I'm 32. As a shift manager for Cascade Metro EMS in Portland, my entire life is built around managing other people's chaos. I am the one who walks calmly into the middle of a 5-car pileup, the one who stabilizes a scene, the one who brings order to panic. My pulse is usually rock steady. Today, it was thundering in my ears. I was just trying to do a favor. My older sister, Lauren, had managed to drop her phone in the sink. It was the 3rd time this year. She's always been careless, disorganized, floating through life while I followed behind, cleaning up the mess. I told her I'd take it to my guy during my lunch break, because that's what I do. I'm the reliable one. I'd been waiting in my ambulance, finishing charting, when Evan Calder motioned me back inside Neon Bite Repair. Evan's shop smells like ozone and burnt circuits, and he usually has a quiet, nerdy smile. Not today. The moment I stepped over the threshold, he reached past me and I heard the heavy metallic thud of the deadbolt sliding home. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the street, his jaw tight. He was pale. "Cancel your cards," he whispered. His voice was so low I barely heard him. "Change the locks. Tonight." This wasn't the man who fixed my laptop screen last month. This was the man he used to be. The one who told me he'd left a high-paying forensic IT job because he got sick of seeing the rot people kept hidden on their hard drives. "Evan, what in the hell are you talking about?" My EMS voice kicked in, sharp and assessing. "Did the water damage fry the logic board? Is it a total loss?" "It's not the water damage, Cassidy." He finally met my eyes, and they were cold. I was running diagnostics, standard procedure for water recovery, checking for corrupted processes, making sure the kernel wasn't compromised. I found automation. My heart did a painful, heavy lurch. Automation like, for her smart lights. "What are you?" "No." He turned the phone, Lauren's phone, toward me. The screen was flickering, the colors warped from the water, but it was functional. He had bypassed her lock screen. He tapped a native scheduling tool, one I didn't even know existed. Like a delayed send queue, he pointed. On the screen were 3 messages, all grayed out, all pending. They were addressed to a contact saved only as K. The first one was scheduled for this Friday. Confirmation needed POA finalized. The second, scheduled for next Monday. Asset transfer initiated upon confirmation of incapacitation status. The third, a week from today. Reallocation of C. Barnes insurance policy complete. I read the words 3 times, but they wouldn't compute. C. Barnes. That was me. Incapacitation status. My mind flashed to 1,000 scenarios from my job, a drunk driver running a red light, a violent psych patient, a fall down a flight of stairs on a call. "I don't understand," I whispered. "This has to be some kind of sick joke, maybe a virus." "It gets worse." His fingers moved with practiced speed, opening her photo gallery. He swiped past dozens of pictures of her golden retriever, snapshots of her and our mother, Elaine, and landed on a folder labeled simply Docs. He tapped one image, a PDF, a medical power of attorney. My name was listed as the grantor. Lauren Hart's name was listed as the agent. "I never signed this." My voice was flat, dead. "You didn't," Evan agreed. "Look at the signature line." He zoomed in. There it was, Cassidy Barnes, my signature. But it was wrong. It was too clean, the edges slightly pixelated, floating just a fraction of an inch above the line it was supposed to rest on. It looked pasted. "It's a scan," Evan said. His voice clipped. "It's a cut-and-paste job, a bad one, if you know what you're looking for, but good enough to fool a bank clerk in a hurry." He swiped again. A spreadsheet. The air punched out of my lungs. It was a list of my assets, my checking account balance, down to the penny, my 401k, My employee stock options from the EMS cooperative, the ones I'd been vesting for 7 years. Every single line item had a neat arrow next to it, pointing to a single entity, Pinegate Fiduciary. Pinegate, I said, the word tasting like ash. That's that firm she's been consulting for. The one in Boston. Evan just nodded, his expression grim. They aren't just consulting. Look at this. He tapped a different photo, a screenshot of a contact card. Lauren Hart, client liaison, Pinegate Fiduciary. The air left the room. It wasn't just the texts. It was the last 3 months. It was Lauren, showing up at my apartment unannounced with lattes. Her voice full of that fake, breezy concern. Hey, Cass, I was just updating my own will. What's the policy payout if you get hurt on a shift? Is it different if it's, like, an accident versus an assault? Just curious. Who's your beneficiary on your main life insurance? Is it still Mom? You know she's not good with money. You really shouldn't use the same password for everything. You should give me a list of your household passwords, your Wi-Fi, your alarm code, just in case. For emergencies. I had brushed her off every time. I'm busy. I run a 24-hour shift cycle. I eat cold leftovers standing over the sink. I don't have time for her morbid financial planning. I thought she was just being Lauren neurotic, a little bit greedy, always trying to organize everyone else's life because hers was perpetually falling apart. But this wasn't disorganization. This was a script. This was a plan. Asset transfer initiated upon confirmation of incapacitation status. She wasn't just idly wondering. She was waiting for me to be incapacitated, or my blood running cold. She was planning to make me incapacitated. Evan, my voice was shaking. I hated that it was shaking. I need all of this. I need a copy of everything. Already done. He held up a small, black USB drive, dangling it from his fingers. I cloned the disk, full image, the automation scripts, the deleted texts, the browser history, the photos, the metadata. It's all in there. He scribbled a long alphanumeric string on a sticky note. This is the encryption key for the cloud backup. I just sent you the link to your personal email. The drive is your physical copy. Do not lose them. And Cassidy. He leaned closer. The metadata shows these drafts were accessed and edited multiple times over the last 2 weeks. The IP addresses bounce all over the country, probably a VPN, but the origin GPS tag on that signature photo, the one she cut and pasted. He paused, and my stomach clenched. It was taken inside your apartment. She had scanned my signature from something in my own house, the medical release forms from my desk. The ones I signed when I sprained my wrist last year. The ones she offered to file for me. I gripped the edge of the counter to steady myself. My EMS brain finally kicked back online, overriding the panicked sister brain. Triage, assess the threat, stop the bleeding, one financial motive, Pinegate Fiduciary, she wants my money, all of it, 2 legal control, the fraudulent power of attorney. She wants the power to make decisions for me, probably to sign away the assets when I'm gone. 3, a third party. K, the recipient of the texts. Cade Carl. Someone at Pinegate. This wasn't just Lauren being impulsive. This was organized. This was predatory. As if summoned. My own phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. My hands clumsy. An unknown number. A new text message. Just one sentence. Don't interfere. Below the text was an image attachment. I opened it, and my heart stopped. It was my back door, the one that leads from the alley into my kitchen. It was taken from the outside, looking in, through the small glass pane. It was dark in the photo, the timestamp showing 2:17 a.m. Last night, I was asleep, alone, 10 feet away. They weren't just planning, they were watching. I looked up at Evan, my face numb, and showed him the screen. His expression hardened. Go. Now. Change the locks. I'll wipe this phone. Tell her the logic board was fried. Buy you some time. I didn't drive back to the station. I drove straight to the hardware store. My mind a blank, cold void. The adrenaline was different from a Code 3 call. This wasn't a sympathetic rush to save a stranger. This was a sharp, serrated survival instinct. I bought 3 new deadbolt assemblies, heavy duty, the kind you can't pick, the kind you have to drill out. I bought a smart doorbell camera, the one with motion alerts and cloud storage. I spent the next hour at my bank. I didn't just cancel my cards. I sat with the branch manager, a woman who had seen me in my uniform 100 times. I put a verbal-only password requirement on all my accounts, something not even my mother knew. I flagged my social security number for fraud alerts. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. The bank teller looked at me with pity, probably assuming a bitter divorce, not an attempted erasure. The locksmith met me at my apartment. He worked fast, whistling while he drilled out the old locks. "Bad breakup?" he asked cheerfully. "Something like that," I muttered. As he installed the new lock on the front door, I installed the camera on the back, my hands shaking slightly as I connected the wires. Click, whir. The new deadbolt slid home. It sounded final. I sat on my couch, the tiny USB drive heavy in my hand. The apartment felt different, violated. That signature. She must have taken it from the medical release forms I keep in my desk. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Lauren. "Hey, Cass. Did you get my phone fixed? You're a lifesaver." I stared at the message, the casual cheerfulness, the smiley face emoji, the sheer, banal evil of it. I thought about her questions. I thought about the spreadsheet. I thought about the man who stood in the alley at 2 a.m, taking a picture of my door. I powered down my phone, took a deep, ragged breath, and made the decision. I would not confront her. I would not text back. I would not give her the satisfaction of knowing I was scared, or that I knew. I would not give her a chance to cover her tracks, to delete the evidence, to gaslight me. I was going to keep my shift. I was going to act normal. And I was going to use the gift Evan gave me, the data, the metadata, the evidence, and I was going to find out exactly who Kay was, what Pinegate fiduciary wanted, and how my sister, my own blood, decided my life was worth less than a spreadsheet. I turned my phone back on, but only to activate the doorbell camera and block the unknown number. Silence. That was the new plan. Silence, until I had enough evidence to make sure she could never touch me, my money, or our mother ever again. I was no longer the responsible younger sister. I was an investigator, and she was my target. I didn't sleep. Adrenaline is a poor substitute for rest, but it keeps the edges sharp. I called out of my next shift, used the family emergency code, which felt like a bitter, cosmic joke. My apartment, with its new locks, felt sterile, like an operating room before a procedure. I sat at my small kitchen table, plugged Evan's encrypted drive into my laptop, and entered the password. The screen filled with the contents of my sister's mind. It was all there. A perfect, sickening mirror of her phone. I needed a framework. In EMS, we assess a scene. I needed to assess this one. I opened a blank document. My fingers typed out the actors: Lauren, Pinegate fiduciary, and Kay, Lauren, Pinegate fiduciary, Kay. Who was Kay? The recipient of the automated texts, the one awaiting confirmation of incapacitation, Carl Kai Khalid. The name didn't matter yet, the role did. Kay was the handler, Lauren was the asset, I was the target. Where did she get the signature? Where did she get the data? I thought back to the wildfire season, the August smokeout. I'd pulled 3 doubles in a row, 96 hours of breathing recycled air and ash. I'd come home smelling like a campfire, my eyes raw, and collapsed. Lauren had been there, so worried about you. Cass, you look dead. I opened my sent mail archive, searched Lauren Hart, benefits, insurance, there it was. An email from me to her, dated August 14th. Subject, FDOD EMS. Open enrollment docs, body Lauren. You're a lifesaver. Can you scan these and upload them to the portal? My login is... I'd attached the signed PDF enrollment forms, the ones with my signature, the ones listing my beneficiaries, the ones detailing my supplemental accident and disability insurance, the very policies she was asking about. She hadn't just helped me upload them, she had saved a copy. She had harvested my signature, my policy numbers, and my login credentials, all while I was asleep in the next room, exhausted from saving other people's lives. She used my exhaustion against me. I went back to the docs folder on the cloned drive. That fraudulent power of attorney was just the start. There were other files. One stood out. Barnes Neuro Eval Draft, PDF. I opened it. It was chilling. It looked official, emblazoned with the logo of the Riverside Neuro Clinic, a reputable place over by the hospital. The document was a 4-page psychological and neurological assessment. My assessment. It described me as exhibiting signs of extreme occupational burnout, paranoia, and compromised executive function. It mentioned short-term memory lapses and emotional volatility consistent with repeated trauma exposure. It concluded that I was at high risk for a critical incident and recommended immediate mandatory administrative leave and financial oversight. It was a narrative, a script to have me declared incompetent. But Lauren, or Kay, had made mistakes. They were arrogant. I'm a paramedic. I read patient charts from Riverside every single day. The logo was right, but the formatting was wrong. Riverside uses a specific sans serif font for their headers. This was Times New Roman. Then I saw the address. Riverside Neuro Clinic, 1855, NW River Drive, Suite 415. My blood ran cold. Suite 415, Riverside Neuro Clinic is in Suite 154. I've transported patients there. Suite 415 doesn't exist. It's an empty floor in that building, awaiting renovation. It was a typo, a fatal, sloppy typo. My hands were steady now. I was on solid ground. This was evidence. I opened the PDF's properties, looked at the metadata. The author field was blank, but the application field wasn't. Created by LexiSign Pinegate Build 2.0, a custom software build, stamped right on the file, and the creation timestamp 08/03/14 EST, Eastern Standard Time, not Pacific, Boston. Pinegate Fiduciary is based in Boston. This document wasn't created by Lauren. It was created by them. I dug deeper. Another file. See Barnes Group Policy Reassignment, PDF. This one wasn't a draft. It looked like a confirmation page from the EMS benefits portal. My group life insurance, the one I'd asked her to upload, the primary beneficiary had been changed. It used to be our mother, Elaine. Now, my name, Cassidy Barnes, was listed as the secondary beneficiary. A person cannot be their own secondary beneficiary. It was nonsense. The primary beneficiary was a new entity, the Hart Legacy Real Estate Trust. I've never heard of it, but I knew, with chilling certainty, whose name was on that trust. This was the payload. They weren't just trying to get my savings, they were trying to get my death benefit. I was breathing shallowly, my focus absolute. I clicked into her photo gallery again. Scrolling past the brunch photos, I found a screenshot. It was from a reminders app, a single item, checked off sign transfer order immediately when C is suspended. They weren't waiting for me to be incapacitated in an accident. They were going to cause the incapacitation a professional one. They were going to use that fake neuro evaluation to get me suspended for instability, and the moment I was off the roster, Kay would sign the transfer. Then, I found the text messages Evan hadn't shown me. Not the automated ones, a separate thread. With a contact named Bennett. Lauren, we have a problem. The address on the letterhead is wrong. Bennett. How wrong, Lauren? It says 415. It's supposed to be 154. My sister knows that building. Bennett. Does it matter? It's for the court, not for her. The judge won't know. Lauren. It has to look legitimate. The address needs to match the official forensic letterhead we discussed. Fix it and send the new draft. Bennett, fine. Delete this thread now. Lauren just did. She had lied. She hadn't deleted the thread. She'd just hidden it. Lauren, my disorganized, flaky sister, was discussing forensic letterhead like a seasoned con artist, and Bennett was just as sloppy. They were talking about their forgery in plain text. I needed to lock this down. I needed an official denial. I pulled up my laptop's voice recorder, hit record. I dialed the main number for the Riverside Neuro Clinic. Riverside Clinic, how can I help you? Hi, I said, my voice calm, professional. I'm calling to confirm an appointment. I seem to have misplaced my paperwork. Can you tell me which doctor is in Suite 415? The receptionist paused. I'm sorry, Suite 415. We don't have a Suite 415. Our clinic is Suite 154. Oh, that's strange. I feigned confusion. My paperwork definitely says 415. Is there another clinic in your building? No. Ma'am, Suite 415 is the 4th floor. It's unoccupied. It's just an empty concrete shell. Are you sure you have the right building? I must be mistaken then, I said. One last thing. Does a Dr. Alistair Finch work there? His signature is on this form. Another pause. We have a Dr. Finch, yes, but his first name is Alan, Dr. Alan Finch, and he's been on sabbatical in New Zealand for 6 months. He hasn't signed any patient evaluations since March. My hand tightened on the mouse. The signature on my fake evaluation was dated last week. Thank you, I said, my voice tight. You've been incredibly helpful. I hung up. I stopped the recording. Saved the file Riverside Confirmation Call, MP3. I dragged it into a new folder on my desktop. I named the folder Case Heart. Inside it, I created subfolders, doc/fake. I dropped in the POA, the neuro evaluation, and the insurance reassignment. Audio, I dropped in the recording of the clinic call. Comms, I dropped in the screenshots of the automated texts, the thread with Bennett, and the photo of my back door. Metadata I dropped in the text files Evan had pulled, showing the Boston time zone and the LexiSign Pinegate software. I created one more folder, Chain of Custody. I put Evan's original disk image link in there. I was meticulous. I time-stamped every file save. Every move I made was documented. Lauren was sloppy. Kay was sloppy. Bennett was sloppy. They thought I was just a burned-out paramedic, too tired to notice. They forgot what I do for a living. I document trauma. I build timelines. I find the mechanism of injury, and I had just found theirs. I looked at the relationship map again. Lauren, Pinegate, Kay, Bennett. They had built a paper cage for me, and they had left the key right in the metadata. I backed up the entire Case Heart folder to a new, secure cloud drive, one Lauren didn't know existed. I wiped the original USB drive clean. The sun was starting to rise, painting the Portland sky a sick, gray pink. I hadn't slept, but I wasn't tired. I was awake. I was fully, terribly awake. Now, I had to find out how deep the rot went, and I knew exactly where to look next, our mother. The drive to Beaverton felt contaminated. Every set of headlights in my rearview mirror seemed to linger too long. My mother, Elaine, lives in the same suburban split level we grew up in. It's usually my sanctuary, the one place Lauren's chaotic energy hadn't fully breached. Today, I felt like I was walking into a contaminated zone, scanning for threats, the smell of my mother's damp rose bushes, usually a comfort, just sat heavy in my lungs. She met me at the door, her face a mask of worry. Cassidy, honey, you look exhausted. Are you all right? Lauren's been over so much. She's just been so worried about you. There it was, the opening move. Oh yeah. I kept my voice light, stepping past her into the familiar kitchen. Worried about what? Oh, you know. Mom waved her hand dismissively, but her eyes were tight. She's just been helping me. Prepare for the future, she said, getting our papers in order. My blood pressure spiked, but I focused on pouring a glass of water. My back to her. What kind of papers? Mom. Well, mostly mine, but she keeps talking about you. Mom sat down at the Formica table, twisting her napkin. She said, Cass, she said you're suffering from occupational burnout. That's the phrase she used. She said you're stressed, forgetful, and that you need someone trustworthy to look after things for a while, in case, in case you have an episode. The exact words, the narrative from the fake neuro-evaluation. Lauren wasn't just planning. She was seeding the story, poisoning the well, painting me as unstable to the one person whose trust I valued most. She said that I kept my voice neutral, clinical. Yes, she said you wouldn't admit it, that you're too proud. She said she was talking to a wonderful advisory group, Pinegate, and they were helping her set up a structure to protect both of us. I scanned the kitchen counter. It was covered in Mom's organized clutter coupons, a pharmacy bill, a grocery list, and, sitting next to the phone, was a thick, cream-colored envelope. It looked expensive. It looked official. Before I even touched it, I smelled it. Vanilla. A heavy, synthetic, cloying vanilla bean. It was Lauren's signature scent. She burned candles of it, used the lotion. I always hated it. It smelled like cheap masking fluid. She must have brought this. Left the scent clinging to the paper. I picked it up. There was no return address. Inside was a neatly stapled set of documents. Consent for domiciliary care and fiduciary management. My heart wasn't pounding anymore. It was a cold, hard stone in my chest. The document authorized Lauren Hart to manage all of Elaine Barnes's medical decisions and household finances, effective immediately, and at the bottom, on the last page, under the section titled Witness and Secondary Agent, was my name, Cassidy Barnes. It was the same signature, the same sloppily cut and pasted, pixelated, floating forgery from the power of attorney. They weren't just coming for me. They were using my manufactured instability as the predicate to seize control of our mother's assets, too. Lauren was locking us both down. I didn't say anything. I didn't show her the forgery. I just pulled out my phone. My movements precise. Click. I photographed the first page. Click. The signature block. Click. The vanilla-scented envelope. I documented everything. Just as I had in my own apartment. I slid the papers back onto the counter. "Mom," I said. My voice was different. It was the voice I used on scene, the one that cuts through panic. "I need you to listen to me very, very carefully." She looked up, her eyes wide. "Lauren is involved with some people who are giving her very, very bad advice. I am handling it, but I need you to promise me something." I leaned forward, holding her gaze. "You will not sign anything, not from her, not from a bank, not from a lawyer. If anyone hands you a piece of paper, you tell them you have to call me first. You tell them your daughter Cassidy handles all your paperwork. Do you understand me?" She saw it in my eyes. The absolute, non-negotiable seriousness, the fear she'd felt earlier returned. "Cassidy, what is going on? You're scaring me." "Good," I said, softening my voice just a fraction. "A little scared is smart right now. Just don't sign, and call me. That's all. I will take care of the rest." She nodded, her hand trembling slightly. "Okay, Cass. Okay." The drive back to Portland was worse than the drive out. The anonymous text message, "Don't interfere," played over and over in my head. The picture of my back door wasn't a warning. It was a promise. I parked in my designated spot, the exhaustion hitting me like a physical weight. As I walked to my door, my phone buzzed. A notification from the new smart doorbell. "Motion detected at your front door at 2:04 p.m. I'd been at my mother's. I fumbled for the new keys, my heart hammering, and unlocked the 3 new deadbolts. I locked them behind me, checked the empty apartment, and only then did I pull up the camera's footage. The new lock had been in place for less than 24 hours. The video was chillingly clear. A man, he was nondescript, wearing jeans, a dark hoodie, and a baseball cap pulled low, obscuring his face. He didn't knock. He didn't ring the bell. He walked right up to my door, shoulders hunched, and pulled something from his pocket, a key. He slid it into the new deadbolt. He pushed. The lock held. He looked confused. He jiggled the key, pulling it out and jamming it back in. He pushed again. harder, putting his shoulder into it. He looked left, then right down the apartment hallway. Frustrated. He stepped back, touched the handle one last time as if to confirm it was locked, and then walked away quickly, never looking at the camera. It was one of my old keys, the one Lauren must have copied, the one she'd have given him. If Evan hadn't warned me, if I hadn't changed the locks, I would have walked into my apartment, and he would have been waiting. Confirmation of incapacitation. My phone buzzed again. An email from my bank's fraud department. We have detected a suspicious login attempt on your account from a new trusted device. The IP address wasn't local. The location Boston, Massachusetts, a third buzz, a text message, the same unknown number as before. It will be clean if you cooperate. Much cleaner than the alternative. They were accelerating. They tried the key. It failed. They tried my bank. My new verbal password held. Now they were threatening me directly. The clean option was me signing the papers, walking away, or being incapacitated. The alternative. That was the man with the key. I couldn't breathe. I forced the air into my lungs. My training took over. Control the scene. I sent a secure message to Evan. I didn't call. I didn't know if my phone was compromised. Need a search. That fake PDF. The address. Suite 415. Where else does that exact typo appear? Evan was fast. He was ex-forensics. He knew how to dig. A message came back 10 minutes later. Not just on the PDF. It's a recurring string in a cached email chain between your Bennett contact and an admin account. He sent the address Lauren, H. Pinegate Client, org, Pinegate Client, org, not Pinegate, com, a hidden subdomain, a shadow network, firewalled from the public company, just for clients like my sister. Evan's next message came a second later. The upload of the neurohemal PDF originated from that email address. Metadata shows it was sent for K's final approval. K's final approval. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I went to the public Pinegate fiduciary website, the polished, professional one. I scanned the Our Team page, vice presidents of finance, senior analysts, wealth managers, and then I saw it. Cade Rusk, director of client transitions. The photo showed a man in his late 40s. Expensive suit, silvering hair at the temples, a smile that looked like it had been calibrated by a focus group. He looked smooth, reassuring, trustworthy. The kind of man who could convince you that giving him all your money was your idea. Cade. K, the recipient of the automated texts, the one who needed POA finalized, the one approving the fake neuroevaluation with the sweet 415 typo. A cold, clear understanding settled over me. Lauren wasn't the predator. She was the tool. She was the inside woman, driven by jealousy or greed. But she wasn't smart enough to build this. Cade Rusk was the operator. He was K. He was the one pulling the strings, directing the forgery, and steering my sister toward theft. He was the one who sent the text messages, and he was the one who sent the man with the key. I looked at the video of the man trying my lock. I looked at the text message. It will be clean. I looked at the smiling, polished face of Cade Rusk. They thought I was a burned-out paramedic. They thought I would fracture under pressure. They were wrong. I don't fracture. I focus. The next step was clear. I wasn't just defending anymore. I had to meet K. To beat a manipulator, you have to become a mirror. You have to reflect back the person they want to see. I spent the rest of the day practicing. I practiced looking tired. I practiced letting my shoulders slump, rubbing my temples, and sighing. I practiced the vacant, 1,000-yard stare I saw in so many of our psych transport patients. By the time I texted Lauren, I was, in fact, genuinely exhausted. But it was the exhaustion of an actor, not a victim. My text was simple. Hey, you were right. I'm stressed. Need to talk. Breakfast Blue Harbor, 8 a.m. The Blue Harbor was a neutral site. It was loud, smelled of burned coffee and cheap maple syrup, and was always packed with dock workers and early shift cops. It was public. It was safe. She replied almost instantly. Of course, Cass. See you then. So glad you reached out. I arrived 5 minutes late. On purpose. I didn't wear my uniform, just an old gray hoodie, my hair pulled back in a messy, careless knot. I saw her before she saw me. She was in a booth by the window, already sipping an orange juice, looking bright and put together in a crisp white blouse. She was wearing that vanilla lotion. The scent hit me from 10 feet away, a cloying, chemical sweetness. When she saw me, her face arranged itself into a mask of profound, gentle concern. It was a good mask. She'd had a lifetime of practice. "Oh, Cass," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper as I slid into the booth. She reached across the table, grabbing my hand. Her skin was warm. I fought the urge to pull away. "You look like you haven't slept in a week." "Something like that," I mumbled, pulling my hand back to pick up the menu. "Shifts have been brutal. I told you I've been so worried." The waitress came, a no-nonsense woman named Trish. I ordered black coffee and oatmeal. Lauren ordered a full lumberjack breakfast. Her appetite, at least, was real. We sat in silence for a moment, the clatter of plates filling the space. I let the silence stretch, just as I would with a hesitant patient, letting them fill the void. "So," Lauren said finally, stirring a packet of sugar into her juice, "what's on your mind? You said you needed to talk." "It's Mom," I lied, looking down at my hands. "I was over there yesterday, saw that paperwork you brought her." I watched her face, not a flicker. She was good. "Oh, it's just simple estate planning, Cass, making sure Mom is taken care of. You're so busy. I didn't want to bother you with the details." She smiled, a gentle, reassuring gesture. "It's just preparing for the future." Right, the future. I took a sip of the bitter coffee. I noticed something weird on it, though, on the witness form, the one with my name. Her hand, which was reaching for her fork, paused, just for a millisecond. "What do you mean? Weird?" "The address," I said, forcing a small, confused laugh. "For the Riverside Clinic, it said Suite 415. Riverside's offices are on the first floor. Suite 154. 415 is just an empty floor. Weird, right?" The color drained from her face. It was fast, but it was undeniable. She had known. The text message with Bennett flashed in my mind. "My sister knows that building." She recovered, but the recovery was sloppy. She laughed, a sound that was too high. "Oh my God, is it those paralegals? You know, they must have just had a clerical error. I'll get it fixed right away." "Gosh, good catch, Cass. You always were the detail-oriented one." She blamed a faceless clerk, a classic deflection. "Yeah," I said, rubbing my forehead. "Details, that's me." I let the conversation die again. I ate my oatmeal. It tasted like paste. She ate her eggs, but her movements were jerky now. She was rattled. I had shown her I was looking at the papers, that I was paying attention. Now, for the trap. I put my spoon down and let out a long theatrical sigh, letting my whole body slump. "Lauren," I said, my voice quiet and broken, I think you're right." She looked up, her fork halfway to her mouth. "Right about what?" "About me." I met her eyes. I let mine look watery, defeated. "I am burned out. I'm not sleeping. I'm making mistakes at work. I keep second-guessing my charts. And seeing that typo, I just realized, what if I missed something important? What if I'm not competent?" I used their word, competent. A new light entered Lauren's eyes. The fake concern was replaced by a sharp, sudden, predatory focus. She was a wolf that had just seen the deer stumble. "Oh, Cassidy," she said, her voice dangerously soft. "It's okay to admit that. You carry so much." "I know, and I've been thinking, this was the moment. You're trying to help Mom, and I'm just, in the way, stressed. Maybe I should just step back. I've been looking into a temporary power of attorney, just for a few months. Let someone else handle my finances, my decisions, just so I can breathe, just so I can rest." I watched her. Her entire body relaxed. The tension flowed out of her shoulders. She almost smiled. "Cassidy, that's the smartest thing I've heard you say in months," she said, her voice brimming with relief. "That would be perfect. And honestly, it would make things so much easier." "Easier." "Yes," she said, leaning in, forgetting her food. "That way, next week's timeline won't be delayed at all. We can get everything settled in one go. Bingo. Next week's timeline, the automated texts, the third one. A week from today, reallocation of C, Barnes insurance policy complete." She had just confirmed the deadline. But just as quickly as she'd relaxed, the mask snapped back into place. She must have seen something in my face, or maybe she heard her own words. The wolf retreated, and the concerned sister returned. But this time with a new, sharper edge. She was pivoting. She was building her defense. "But Cass, that's what I mean," she said, her tone shifting. "The fact that you're even thinking about a POA, it just proves my point. You're clearly under an incredible amount of stress from your job, all that trauma. You see terrible things every day. It's bound to affect your judgment. Maybe you should really consider getting a full evaluation for your own good." There it was, the fake neuro evaluation. She was pre-selling me the narrative, so that when it appeared, I would already believe it. She was handing me the script she wanted me to follow. I had to play my part. I let my face crumple. "Yeah," I whispered, looking away. "Yeah, maybe. I don't even know where to start. It's all too much." I looked like the perfect victim. Tired, confused, defeated, and agreeing that I was unstable. Lauren sat back, her victory complete. She took a sip of her orange juice, her eyes calm and clear. She was in control again. "Don't you worry about a thing," she said, her voice like warm, thick honey. "You don't have to do anything. I'll take care of it." "You will." "Of course." She smiled, a genuine, triumphant smile. "I'll have Cade look over the papers for you. He's wonderful." I played dumb. Cade Rusk," she said, her voice casual, as if she were recommending a dentist. "He's the director of client transitions at Pine Gate. He's the one who's been helping me with all of Mom's paperwork. He can just roll your POA into the same packet. He'll make it all painless. He'll handle everything." Cade Rusk, director of client transitions. She had just handed me his name, his title, and his direct involvement on a silver platter. "Okay, Lauren," I said, my voice thick. "Okay, that might be good." I threw a $20 bill on the table for my coffee and oatmeal. "I have to go. I need to think." "Of course," she said, her voice dripping with sympathy. "You just rest. I'll call Cade today. He'll be in touch." I walked out of the Blue Harbor, my back rigid, my hands clenched into fists in my hoodie pockets. I didn't let myself breathe until I was in my car. Doors locked, a block away. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to Evan. Confirmed. Cade Rusk, Director of Client Transitions, Pine Gate Fiduciary. Lauren is meeting with him in the next 48 hours to add my temporary POA to the packet. The deadline is next week. His reply was simple. "I see him. He's on the move. Good work." I drove, not home, but to an electronics store. I paid cash for a micro recorder, the kind reporters use. It was the size of a paperclip. Then, I drove home, locked my 3 new locks, and sat at my kitchen table. I pulled up the Pine Gate Fiduciary website. I found the smiling, polished face of Cade Rusk. I picked up my phone and dialed the main number. "Pine Gate Fiduciary, how may I direct your call?" "Yes," I said, my voice clear and professional. "I'd like to schedule a financial consultation with Mr. Cade Rusk. My name is Cassidy Barnes. My sister, Lauren Hart, is a client of his. She recommended him. His assistant had a voice like synthetic ice, confirming a 10:30 a.m. consultation at a coffee shop downtown. Not his office, not my apartment, neutral ground of his choosing. I chose steeple steam. It was perfect. The high ceilings and dark wood absorbed most of the noise, but the constant hiss of the espresso machine's steam wand provided a perfect layer of white noise to mask a recording. It was crowded, but the booths were private, anonymous and intimate at the same time. I was there 30 minutes early. I sat in a booth facing the door. I took the micro recorder Evan had modified for me and pressed it into the small gap between the vinyl of the booth seat and the wall. It was secure, invisible, and close. I had my phone on the table, face up. I'd already initiated the call to Evan's secure, automated server, which was recording everything the phone's microphone picked up, a live audio feed, uploading directly to his cloud, a dead man's switch. If Cade tried anything, if I disappeared, Evan would have the entire encounter. I ordered a black coffee I didn't intend to drink. I watched the door. At 10:30 a.m., precisely. The door opened. It was him, Cade Rusk. He looked exactly like his photo, only more expensive. His gray wool coat was perfectly tailored, hanging open to reveal a crisp, dark suit. He was the kind of man who didn't sweat. He had no scent, no cologne, no soap, not even the smell of the cold air he'd just walked in from. He was sterile. His eyes scanned the room once, found me, and he moved. His walk was smooth, economical, no wasted motion. "Miss Barnes," he said. His voice was just as I'd imagined, smooth, low, and perfectly modulated. It was a voice designed to calm racehorses and liquidate assets. He slid into the booth opposite me without offering to shake my hand. "Cade Rusk, thank you for making time." "Mr. Rusk?" He smiled, a brief, professional flash of white teeth. "Cade, please, we're practically family, given my work with Lauren." He glanced at my untouched coffee. "Can I get you anything else?" "I'm fine. Lauren said you could help. She said I was stressed, and you had solutions." "That's what I do." He folded his hands on the table. His cuffs were immaculate. "I practice family risk management. I help families navigate difficult transitions. And Lauren? She loves you very much. Cassidy, she's just deeply concerned. She sees the pressure you're under." The hiss of the steam wand filled the silence. "You're a paramedic," he continued, as if reading from a file. "A shift manager. You run into fires. You deal with trauma. Day in, day out. You're busy stabilizing everyone else's life. The question Lauren and I have been exploring is, who is stabilizing yours?" It was the most elegant, insidious twisting of my strength I had ever heard. He was framing my competence as a liability. "My life is stable. Cade," I said, my voice flat. "Is it?" He tilted his head, his expression one of polite, academic curiosity. "Lauren seems to believe your occupational stress is bleeding over, causing friction, making it difficult to manage complex family assets, like your mother's estate, or even your own. You seem to know a lot about my assets." "It's my job, too," he said, without a trace of apology. "My only goal, Cassidy, is to provide stability, to protect your family's legacy from unfortunate complications." I reached into my bag and slid a single piece of paper across the table. It was a printout of the first page of the fake neuroevaluation. I had circled the address in red ink. "Is this part of that stability?" I asked. "Suite 415. I watched his face. I expected a flinch, a hesitation, a moment of anger. I got nothing. He glanced down at the paper. He didn't even pick it up. He actually smiled. A small, indulgent smile, as if I were a clever child who had found a hidden treat. "Ah," he said, nodding. "The simulation template. I wondered if Lauren had shown you that." My blood went cold. "Simulation template. That's not a real document." "Cassidy," he said, his voice laced with gentle condescension. "It's a placeholder. We create hypothetical models for our clients to illustrate potential risk scenarios. What if a family member experiences a breakdown? What if someone becomes incapacitated? We draft these templates to show them what the protective paperwork would look like. Lauren must have mistaken it for a final draft. She can be enthusiastic. He pushed the paper back toward me. A simple clerical error on the address, he said with a dismissive shrug. It means nothing. It's not a legal document. He was brilliant. He didn't deny it. He recontextualized it. He turned his fraudulent criminal evidence into a homework assignment. He made me the paranoid one for finding it. He leaned in. The smile was gone. His voice was still quiet, but the temperature in the booth had dropped 20 degrees. But it raises an important point, he said. The very fact that this document exists, even as a template, means Lauren is preparing for a worst-case scenario, and your reaction to it only confirms her fears. He paused, letting that sink in. So, let's talk about the two paths forward. Cassidy, because I believe you're a practical woman. I just stared at him. I was a statue. I was a recorder. Path 1, he said, steepling his fingers. The clean path. You're tired. You're burned out. You said so yourself to Lauren. You sign a temporary, 6-month power of attorney. You cede financial and medical management to Lauren, who will be acting under the guidance of my firm. You take a leave of absence from your job. You rest. You recharge. He leaned in even closer. His voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the din of the cafe. And if you do that, he murmured, all this pressure, it disappears. The login attempts at your bank, the unwelcome visitors at your door, the anxiety, it all vanishes. We protect you. We stabilize the situation. Everyone wins. He had just admitted it. He had admitted to the harassment. He had admitted to the man with the key. My thumb brushed the side of my phone, confirming the audio was still streaming. Evan had this. And path 2, I whispered. Cade sighed, as if disappointed in me. Path 2, he said, is so messy, so unnecessary. In path 2, you fight this, you resist, you make this difficult. He looked at me, his eyes flat and cold. And then, we are forced to wonder why you're resisting. Is it because you're stable? Or is it because, as the file suggests, you're suffering from emotional instability, paranoia, compromised executive function? He used the exact words from the fake evaluation. In path 2, he said, that template isn't a template anymore. It becomes a piece of evidence, a concerned sister's desperate attempt to get help for her sibling. It gets filed. Your employer, Cascade Metro EMS, would be notified. A fitness for duty evaluation would be triggered, and a file like that, it's a permanent red flag. It would be a profound shame to see a promising career paused, perhaps permanently, over a simple family misunderstanding. He sat back, his hands returning to their folded position. We would, of course, prefer to avoid filing for an emergency hearing on Wednesday. It's also public, so adversarial. This can be quiet. This can be clean. Wednesday. He had just given me the deadline, the court date. They weren't just threatening. They had a legal motion ready to file, using the fake neuroeval as its primary exhibit. He thought he had me. He had offered me a choice voluntary submission or involuntary destruction. I didn't speak. I let the silence hang, letting him think he had won. I let him see the defeated woman Lauren had described. Finally, I picked up my cold coffee cup. My hand was perfectly steady. You've given me a lot to think about, I said, my voice hollow. Cade stood up, pulling his wool coat straight. He looked down at me, his expression once again one of mild, clinical concern. He had won. He was closing the file. I know I have, he said. Think about it, but not for too long. He turned and walked out of the shop, never looking back. He didn't pay for his coffee. He didn't exist. I sat there for another full minute, until I was sure he was gone. I ended the audio stream on my phone. I stood up, my legs shaking, the adrenaline hitting me like a wave. I walked out into the cold, bright Portland air. My mind clear. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan. Audio crystal clear. Running voice print analysis now. A minute later. Another text. Match. Metadata cross-reference. Cade Rusk's voice signature from your recording is a 99.97% match to the voice signature on the Pinegate Fiduciary Main auto attendant welcome message. He had him. I had him. The voice on the recording, the one admitting to extortion and threatening to file a fraudulent document, was verifiably Cade Rusk, Director of Client Transitions. I stood on the street corner. The traffic rushing past me. I was a paramedic. I knew trauma. I knew medicine. I knew procedure. I did not know the law. Cade was a professional. Lauren was a pawn. I was an amateur. I couldn't fight them in court on Wednesday. I couldn't walk into a police station with a micro-recorder and a conspiracy theory. I would look exactly like the unstable person they were painting me to be. I needed a professional of my own. I pulled up my contacts. I didn't have a lawyer. But I knew people who did. I remembered a case from 2 years ago, a complex transport. An elderly woman who had been systematically drained of her entire estate by her loving nephew. The woman who had put him in jail was named Maya. I found the firm, Corley Associates. The tagline on the website was simple: elder fraud, insurance fraud, financial exploitation. We protect the vulnerable. I dialed the number. Maya Corley's office, a crisp voice answered. My name is Cassidy Barnes, I said, my voice finally steady. I need to speak with Ms. Corley. I have audio evidence of extortion, a conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and a forged medical document being used to file an emergency guardianship petition this Wednesday. There was a pause on the other end. Ms. Corley is in court, but I think she'll want to take this. Please hold. Maya Corley's office was not like Cade Rusk's suit. It was not sterile, smooth, or designed to impress. It was a weapon. Books were stacked on the floor. File boxes lined the walls, and the desk was an avalanche of paper. But it was the most organized chaos I had ever seen. She was a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes, a sharper haircut, and a pen that was already moving before I'd even sat down. I didn't give her a story. I just plugged my laptop into her monitor and opened the folder labeled Case Heart. I have audio, I started. I have metadata. I have a timeline. She held up a hand. Stop. First things first. She pointed to the audio file of my meeting with Cade. Where was this recorded? Steeple Steam Coffee Shop, downtown Portland. Your voice is on it. Yes. And his. Good. She made a note. Oregon is a one-party consent state. Washington County abides. The recording is clean. It's admissible. We can use it. It was the first clean breath I had taken in 48 hours. He threatened to file an emergency hearing on Wednesday, I said, my voice gaining strength. He has a fake neurological evaluation. He won't. Maya was already typing, her fingers flying. He thinks he will, but he won't. She was drafting a document as she spoke, her words clipped and precise. I am filing an ex parte motion for an emergency temporary restraining order against Lauren Hart, Cade Rusk, and Pinegate Fiduciary, barring them from filing any petition for guardianship, POA, or conservatorship against Cassidy Barnes or Elaine Barnes. The judge will sign it this afternoon based on your affidavit and the audio. She looked up at me, her eyes drilling into mine. His Wednesday deadline is now a phantom. He has a gun, but I just took the bullets. Now, let's build the knife. The next 2 days were a blur. Maya Corley was a field marshal, and Evan and I were her operatives. She took my Case Heart folder and began to weaponize every single file. First, she dispatched a paralegal, a terrifyingly efficient man who looked like he ate subpoenas for breakfast, to the Riverside Neuroclinic. He didn't just return with the receptionist's verbal confirmation. He returned with a notarized, sworn affidavit from the clinic's administrator. It stated, in no uncertain terms, that Suite 415 did not exist, that Dr. Alan Finch was out of the country, and that the signature on the document I provided was a clear and deliberate forgery. They attached a copy of Dr. Finch's real signature for comparison. It wasn't even close. While he was doing that, Maya had me send Evan the court's e-filing portal information. They must have pre-filed the petition to threaten you with a Wednesday date, she explained, which means they uploaded the forged PDF, which means they left a digital fingerprint. Evan found it in an hour. He sent an email that Maya read aloud, a grim smile on her face. The IP address that uploaded C. Barnes Neuro Eval Draft PDF to the court server originates from, wait for it, a Comcast residential IP address registered to Lauren Hart, 3407 Northwest Oak Street. He wasn't done. A secondary packet, Maya read, containing the financial declarations, was uploaded 2 minutes later from a VPN hub known to be exclusively used by Pinegate Fiduciary's Boston headquarters. Maya looked up at me. We have them, digitally. We have them. He didn't just advise her, he participated in the filing. The next blade was the money. Maya's emergency order included a provision to freeze and subpoena the records for the Hart Legacy Real Estate Trust. The bank complied immediately. The report was sicker than I could have imagined. The trust was opened on August 15th. That's the day after I emailed Lauren my benefits package, I whispered, the bile rising in my throat. Exactly, Maya said, her voice hard. The trust was funded with an initial deposit of $5,000, wired from a Pinegate subsidiary named Boston Fiduciary Solutions, the only signatory on the account, with full power to disburse funds, is Lauren Hart. This wasn't just theft. It was an infrastructure. It was premeditated. Now, for the hardest part, my mother. Maya drove with me to Beaverton. She sat at the Formica table, her presence filling the small kitchen. She was gentle with Mom, but she was not soft. She laid out the cream-colored envelope. Elaine, she said, her voice quiet. I am Cassidy's attorney. I need you to look at this signature, the one on the consent form. Mom looked at the forgery. She looked at Lauren's name listed as the sole agent. She looked at the vanilla-scented paper. Her hands, wrinkled and spotted from years of gardening, began to shake. She told me it was just preparation, Mom whispered. For the future. Elaine, Maya said, sliding a blank piece of paper and a pen across the table. Is that your signature? Mom looked at me, her eyes filling with a terrible, dawning understanding. The betrayal was so deep it was physical. She picked up the pen. Her hand was shaking so badly she could barely write. No, she said, her voice cracking. That is not my signature. That is not my signature. Maya gently stopped her. Write that, Elaine, on the paper. The signature on the form dated October 29th is not mine. Mom wrote it. Her script wobbly but clear. A paralegal, waiting by the door, stepped in and notarized it on the spot. We had her affidavit. While we were there, Maya's phone buzzed. Her paralegal again. Maya said, reading the screen. It seems your sister isn't just a client. We ran a search on Open Corporates. Pinegate Fiduciary has a registered community liaison volunteer based in Portland, Oregon. The name on the registration, Lauren Hart. A volunteer? I asked. A cutout, Maya corrected. A way to pay her, or at least formalize her role, without her appearing on the public payroll. It proves she's not a duped client. She is an agent of the firm. It establishes a clear, documented conflict of interest and a motive for collusion. The pile of evidence on Maya's desk was growing. I made the next call myself. To my boss at Cascade Metro. The head of HR. I didn't give him the details. I just said I was the target of a fraudulent legal action and I needed help. He was a former paramedic himself. He understood threat. Within an hour, I had an official, signed letter from HR. It stated two things. One, that my employee record was exemplary and I had no fitness for duty flags. Two, that Cascade Metro EMS does not, under any circumstances, have a policy requiring or recommending employees to grant power of attorney to family members. The letter explicitly called Lauren's assertions false and without merit. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place when Evan finished his last task, the doorbell camera. "He got the plate," I said, handing the file to Maya. "The man who tried my key." Maya's team ran the plate. It came back to a white sedan, rented from the Avis at Portland International Airport. "This is good," Maya said. "We can show a pattern of harassment." "Wait," I said, a thought striking me. "The bank records, the Pinegate subsidiary. Can you—" Maya was already one step ahead of me. She had her paralegal send a request to Avis, citing the new TRO and the ongoing fraud investigation. The rental agreement came back in 20 minutes. Maya just stared at it. Then she turned the screen to me. The car was rented on October 30th. It was paid for with a corporate American Express card. Cardholder Cade Rusk. Billing address, Pinegate Fiduciary, Boston, Massachusetts. My blood ran colder than it had in the coffee shop. The man with the smooth voice and the man who tried to break into my apartment were one and the same, connected by a single, undeniable, corporate credit card receipt. Cade hadn't just sent someone, he had paid for them. Maya leaned back in her chair. She looked at the pile, the Riverside affidavit, the IP trace, the bank records for the trust. Mom's handwritten statement, the Open Corporate's registration, the letter from my HR department, the rental car receipt, paid for by Cade Rusk. "He's not just a con artist," she said, her voice a low hum. "He's an idiot, a sloppy, arrogant idiot." She stood up and began to pace, her energy electric. "He thinks he's holding all the cards," she said. "He thinks he's delivering an ultimatum on Wednesday. He thinks you're a scared, unstable paramedic who's going to crumble." She stopped and looked at me. "But we have disarmed him. The Wednesday hearing is dead. He just doesn't know it yet. He's still waiting for your answer. He's still waiting for you to sign that temporary POA to make it all go away." A slow, cold smile spread across her face. "So, that's our strategy," she said. "We're not going to serve him. We're not going to alert him. We are going to let him continue to believe he is in complete control." She picked up her phone. "You're going to call Lauren. You're going to sound broken, anxious, and worn out. You're going to admit she's right. You'll tell her you're ready to sign anything as long as Cade is there to walk you through it. You just want to let it all go and be done with everything." She was laying a trap. They asked for a smooth process, Maya said, her eyes shining. "That's exactly what we'll give them. We'll arrange a signing, and we'll let them walk straight in and doom themselves with their own words." Calling Lauren was the most convincing act I'd ever pulled off. I dropped my voice, threaded it with fatigue, and let it falter when I said her name. "Lauren, I can't keep fighting," I murmured, holding the phone away from my mouth to make it sound more distant. "You're right. I'm not okay. I'm just so tired." I caught the sharp breath she drew in. That was the sound of the trap springing shut. "Oh, Cass," she said, her voice dripping with that sweet, toxic sympathy. "You're doing the right thing. This is for the best. Just—" "Let's get it over with," I said. Can we just meet at Mom's tonight? Cade can bring whatever I'll sign. I just want it to be over." "Of course," she said, her voice suddenly bright and efficient. "Cade is actually flying in for that Wednesday hearing. He'll be thrilled to settle this quietly. We'll be there. Say 6 o'clock. We'll even bring dinner." "We'll bring dinner," as if this were a family gathering, not an execution. "Fine," I whispered, and hung up. I had 6 hours. I was at my mother's house by noon. The first person I met was Evan, in a public park 2 blocks away. He didn't look like a computer tech. He looked like a field operative. He handed me a small, hard-shell case. "1 lavalier mic, broadcast grade," he said, his voice all business. "It's the size of a pinhead. The battery will last 12 hours. It transmits on a secure, encrypted frequency. This is the receiver." He showed me how to tape the microphone to the underside of the heavy, cork-backed coaster that always sat in the middle of Mom's dining table. It was perfect. The cork would absorb any vibration. leaving only their voices. "The camera," he said, handing me a small black cube. "It's motion activated, but I've set it to record continuously once you power it on. It streams directly to the cloud, my cloud, and my cloud backups." I took it. "Where do they sit?" "Lauren always takes the head of the table. Cade will sit to her right, facing the china hutch." "Then it goes on the hutch," Evan said. "Behind the crystal gravy boat, the one your mom never uses. It has a perfect clear view of the entire table. I will be online, monitoring the live feed. I will be recording everything to 3 separate, geographically isolated servers. If they seize the camera, if they burn the house down, the recording is already safe." His words hit me like a splash of ice water. Burn the house down. He was thinking like they were. Back at the house, I briefed my mother. It was the hardest conversation I've ever had. "Mom, tonight, Lauren and a man are coming over to have me sign papers. They believe I am having a breakdown. Cassidy, I'll tell them they're wrong." "No," my voice was iron. "You will not. Tonight, you are going to be in your bedroom. You are going to lock your door. You are going to turn on your television, and you are not going to come out. No matter what you hear, no matter what they say, you will not engage. You will not sign anything. This is my fight. Your only job is to stay safe in that room." She saw the look in my eyes, the one she'd never seen before, and the fight drained out of her. She just nodded, her hands twisting in her lap. "Okay, Cass, okay." Next, I went to Tasha, my mother's next-door neighbor. Tasha's an ER nurse. She's seen everything. She doesn't rattle. "Tasha," I said, catching her by her car. "I'm in a bad spot. I'm staging an intervention with my sister tonight. It's a legal and financial thing. She's bringing a man from a fiduciary firm. I'm worried it's going to get adversarial." Tasha's eyes narrowed. "You need a witness." "I need a neutral third party," I corrected. "Someone who can just be there. Someone who can't be accused of being on my side. Can you please come over at exactly 6:30? Just ring the bell. Say you're dropping off Mom's mail." 6:30, she said, nodding. "I'll be there. You need me to bring anything?" "Just your eyes," I said. "Just be a nurse." With the team briefed, I prepped the props. Maya had given me a locked red briefcase containing the real restraining order, the affidavits, and the pile of evidence. That stayed hidden in my car. For the table, I created the bait. I took a new, stiff blue folder. Inside, I put a stack of blank paper. On top, I placed a single sheet, a simple one-page document I'd typed myself. General agreement and consent. It was full of meaningless legalese. This was the document I would offer to sign. I opened the small vial Evan had given me. UV reactive detection powder, invisible to the naked eye, but under a blacklight, it would glow like a flare. I dusted the paper, the inside of the folder, and the pen I would leave next to it. Whoever touched them would be marked. I set the camera. I placed the mic. I sat at the table. Everything was ready. My phone buzzed. A secure message from Evan. "Cassidy, I've been running a deeper trace on that Pinegate client. Org subdomain. I found a shared notebook app. It's Lauren's. She's sloppy. She made notes." A screenshot appeared on my phone. My stomach turned to ice. It was a simple to-do list, dated today. 1. Dinner casserole. 2. Cade brings packets Boston plus local. 3. C. Signs. 4. If C resists, Plan B. 5. Plan B. Key to garage. Heater. Leave before 10:45 p.m. Plan B. I ran out the back door, into the attached garage. It smelled of old oil, cut grass, and my father's workbench. And in the corner, I saw it. The old, rusty, propane-fueled space heater, the one Mom used when she was gardening in the winter. It was ancient. It was notoriously unreliable, and the garage was attached to the house by a single, unsealed door to the kitchen. Key to garage. Heater. Leave before 10:45 p.m. They weren't just planning for me to be incapacitated. They were planning to incapacitate me. A tragic accident. A faulty heater. Carbon monoxide poisoning, the unstable paramedic, too stressed to notice the leak, succumbs in her sleep. It will be clean. I looked at the note again. Key. Lauren had a key to the garage. They wouldn't even have to come inside. I flew back to my car, grabbed my EMS go bag, and my personal toolkit. First, I took the new, battery-powered carbon monoxide detector from my bag, the one that syncs to my phone. I activated it and placed it on the workbench, right next to the heater. If the CO levels in this garage rose by even 1 part per million, my phone would scream. Second, the heater itself. I looked at the propane tank. It was full. She had prepared. I looked at the ignition. It was a simple pilot light. I looked at the wall outlet. The heater had an electric fan, which plugged into a socket right behind it. The socket was ancient, a 2-prong from the 1970s. I grabbed my toolkit. I cut the power at the breaker. In less than 5 minutes, I had ripped the old, brittle socket from the wall. I replaced it with a brand new, tamper-resistant, grounded fault circuit interrupter outlet, the kind with a child-proof safety lock. To plug anything into it, you had to push and twist with significant force, using a specific motion. Lauren, or Cade, expecting to just plug in a fan, would be stopped. They wouldn't know why. They would just know it didn't work. It wouldn't stop them from turning on the gas. But without the fan, the CO would be slower to build, and my sensor would catch it long before it was lethal. It was a delay. It was a monkey wrench. One last call. I dialed the Beaverton Police non-emergency line. This is Shift Manager Cassidy Barnes, Cascade Metro EMS, badge number 224. I gave them Mom's address. I am here with my elderly mother, who has been the target of financial exploitation. The individuals responsible are scheduled to arrive here within the hour, under false pretenses. I have reason to believe they may attempt to tamper with the property or create a medical diversion. I am formally requesting a wellness check standby. If you receive any call from this address, or a silent alert from my badge number, I need an immediate, priority 1 response. Understood. Manager Barnes, the dispatcher replied, his voice suddenly alert. We'll have a unit staged in the area. Stay safe. I hung up. I walked back into the dining room. The camera was a dark eye in the hutch. The microphone was a silent witness under the coaster. The UV powder was an invisible stain on the bait. The CO sensor was a digital canary. The police were a cavalry, waiting just over the hill. I sat down at the head of the table. I smoothed the blue folder. The house was silent. Except for the sound of my mother's muffled television in the bedroom, everything was in place. I was no longer a paramedic. I was a patient, waiting for the surgeons. I was a trap, waiting for the prey. At 6:02 p.m., the doorbell rang. I didn't move. I heard my mother's TV muffled through her locked door. I heard the click of the deadbolt. Lauren had a key. Of course she did. Cass, we're here. Her voice was a song, bright and false. I heard the rustle of bags, the thud of a portfolio on the kitchen counter, and the smell, that thick, sweet vanilla, followed by the savory scent of beef casserole. The combination was nauseating. They appeared in the dining room doorway. Lauren, holding the casserole dish in oven mitts, a bright smile plastered on her face, and Cade Rusk, standing just behind her, his expensive wool coat immaculate. He was holding a sleek leather portfolio. He looked calm, sterile, and completely in charge. He was an executioner dressed as a financial advisor. Cassidy, Cade said, his voice smooth as polished stone. He nodded toward the casserole. Lauren was kind enough to bring dinner, a peace offering. Smells great, I said, my voice flat. I didn't move from the head of the table. I motioned to the chairs opposite me, the ones in the camera's direct line of sight. Please, sit. They sat. Lauren placed the casserole on the heavy cork coaster right on top of the hidden microphone. Perfect. Cade opened his portfolio and took out a thick, beautifully bound set of documents. This is a good decision. Cassidy, Lauren began, her voice brimming with that poisonous sympathy. I know this is hard, but we're just here to help. These papers, they're just a few places to sign. Wait, I said. I held up a hand. I reached for my phone, which was already on the table. Streaming a live feed to Evan, I tapped the screen, opening the native voice memo app, making the red record icon visible. If we're going to do this, I want to record it for clarity, so I remember what I agreed to. Lauren frowned. Why this is family? Cass, you don't need to. Cade, ever the professional, gave her a small, silencing glance. To object would look suspicious. He was managing the unstable patient. That's perfectly fine, Cade said, his tone indulgent. Transparency is important. Please, proceed. I hit the record button. The display timer started. It was pure theater. Evan already had the audio, but it changed the psychology of the room. It made them aware of their words. Okay, I said, my voice sounding weak, hesitant. I just have a few questions. I'm confused about some of the papers, the ones Lauren already showed me. Of course, Cade said, settling back in his chair. This is a consultation. Ask anything. The neuro-evaluation, I said, looking down at my hands. The one from Riverside. It listed the address as Suite 415. I'm pretty sure that's wrong. I think the clinic is on the first floor. Cade smiled. He was prepared for this. This was his simulation template defense. A simple clerical oversight, he said, waving his hand dismissively. As I believe I mentioned at the coffee shop, that was merely a draft template, an illustration. It has no legal bearing. It was a hypothetical. Right, Lauren chimed in. A little too quickly. It was a new clerk at their office. They typed it wrong. It's nothing. Cass, you're obsessing over a typo. It's not a big deal. Liar. I'd seen the text thread, my sister knows that building. I nodded slowly, playing the part of the confused, obsessive patient. Okay, a typo. What about my EMS insurance? Cade's eyes sharpened. What about it? My beneficiary was changed, from my mother to something called the Hart Legacy Real Estate Trust, and my name was listed as the secondary beneficiary, which, that doesn't make sense. Cade didn't miss a beat. That is standard benefit optimization, he said, his voice a soothing balm of jargon. We do it for all our high-exposure clients. It protects assets from probate and taxes by moving them into a trust. It's a very common, very clean financial instrument. Lauren was simply being proactive. Right, I said. Optimization. So, the form I found in Lauren's phone, the one on her Reminders app, the one that said, sign transfer order immediately when C is suspended, was that also optimization? The air went still. I saw it. Lauren's hand, which was resting on the table, clenched into a fist. Her smile froze. Cade's expression didn't change, but his eyes went flat. Dead. You're misinterpreting confidential work product, Cassidy, he said, his voice losing its warmth. Suspension is a standard clause in incapacitation planning. It refers to a suspension of your financial controls, not your employment. He was good. He was so good. But I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to Lauren. So, I pushed, my voice gaining a small, sharp edge. The part in the automated texts, the ones to you, Cade, the ones about reallocating C. Barnes' insurance policy, that was supposed to happen after my incapacitation status was confirmed, and that status, that was going to be confirmed by the fake neuro-eval, right? The one that would get me suspended. Lauren flinched. It was a full-body recoil. Cassidy, stop it, she hissed, her voice cracking. You're not well. You're twisting things. You're paranoid. Am I? I said. Or am I just finally reading the instructions? I took a deep breath, letting the broken mask fall back onto my face. I slumped, shaking my head as if to clear it. You're right. I'm sorry. I looked down. I'm confused. You're right. I just need to sign. Let's just do it. I reached for the blue folder I had prepared, the one with the UV powder, and pushed it toward the center of the table. Is this it? The temporary POA? Cade looked at the folder. then at me. His suspicion warring with his desire to close the deal. He hadn't brought this folder. He thought I had. He thought I'd prepared my own surrender. He pushed his own, professionally bound packet forward. These are the official Pinegate documents. What you have there is unnecessary. No, I insisted, my voice small, pushing the blue folder open. I want to sign this one, the one Lauren and I talked about, the simple one. Lauren, impatient, snatched the paper from my folder. Cass, just sign Cade's papers. Stop making this difficult. She held the UV-dusted paper in her hand. Her fingers were all over it. Look, she said, tapping the page, her finger tracing the exact lines I had typed. It's the same thing. Article 4, Section C. In the event of medical incapacitation, it's what we discussed. It's the same thing. Article 4C. She'd found it. She was marking herself, confirming she knew exactly what the incapacitation clause was. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Exactly 6:30. Lauren jumped, startled. Who is that? Were you expecting someone? It's just Tasha, I said, my voice small. My neighbor. She's dropping off Mom's mail. Get rid of her, Cade ordered, his voice a low command. I can't, I said. She'll know something's wrong. I got up and opened the front door. Tasha was standing there, mail in hand, her face a perfect mask of neighborly neutrality. Hey, Cass, sorry to bother you. Just got Elaine's mail by mistake. Oh, thanks, Tasha, I said, taking it. Smells good, Tasha said, peering past me. Family dinner. Oh, hi, Lauren. Lauren, who had stood up, waved weakly from the dining room. Cade was visible over her shoulder, his face rigid. Yeah, I said. We're just signing some family papers. Ah, the fun stuff, Tasha said, her voice breezy. She was a perfect witness. She saw the room. She saw the tension. She saw the stack of legal papers on the table. Well, don't let me interrupt. Have a good night. You too, Tasha. I closed the door. When I turned back, Lauren's face was mottled with red. The interruption, the witness, my hesitation, it had shattered her composure. That's it, she snapped, throwing my bait paper onto the table. I'm done with this. Cade, she's stalling. Lauren, Cade said, his voice a warning. No, she shouted, and the sudden volume was shocking. She pointed a trembling finger at me. I am sick of this. I am sick of you. I just looked at her. I didn't say a word. All my life, she spat, her voice thick with a resentment so old it was almost primal. It's always been you. Cassidy the responsible one. Cassidy the hero, the paramedic who saves everyone. You just walk in and you're the hero, while I just clean up the mess. I'm the flaky one, the disorganized one. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Well, it's my turn now. It's my turn to be in charge. It's my turn to control things, and you need this. Cassidy, you are broken. You are a mess, and I am the only one who can fix it. It was a confession, not of fraud, but of motive. It was the deepest, ugliest truth in her. Cade Rusk, the professional, saw the entire operation imploding, the yelling, the witness, the mention of control. It was a legal nightmare. He stood up. His chair didn't scrape. He rose like a shadow. He leaned across the table, his face inches from mine. The mask of the friendly advisor was gone. This was the man who sent threats. This was the man who paid for the rental car. Sign the papers, Cassidy, he whispered, his voice a blade. Sign the packet, now. Stop this performance. Make it clean. I stared into his dead, sterile eyes. The smell of vanilla and casserole was choking me. I looked at Lauren, who was breathing heavily, her face a mask of triumphant rage. Clean, I said, my voice perfectly clear. Clean for who? I reached down to my phone. Cade thought I was stopping the recording. I hit play on a different file. The voice of the Riverside Clinic receptionist suddenly filled the silent dining room. "I'm sorry. Suite 415. We don't have a Suite 415. Our clinic is Suite 154. Lauren's jaw dropped. "We have a Dr. Finch, yes, but his first name is Alan, and he's been on sabbatical in New Zealand for 6 months. He hasn't signed any patient evaluations since March." Lauren looked at Cade, her eyes wide with panic. "Cade, what is that? What is she doing?" Cade didn't move. He was frozen. "That," I said, "is the sound of your clerical oversight. It's called perjury. Cade." I hit play on the next file. His own voice filled the room. The voice from the coffee shop. The hiss of the steam wand was unmistakable. "In Path 2, you fight this. And then, we are forced to wonder why. As the file suggests, you're suffering from emotional instability. That template isn't a template anymore. It becomes a piece of evidence." Lauren stumbled back, knocking into her chair. "What? What did you do?" I kept my eyes on Cade. His face was white. He was finally processing. He wasn't the predator. He was the one in the trap. "Your employer, Cascade Metro EMS, would be notified. A fitness for duty evaluation would be triggered. We would, of course, prefer to avoid filing for an emergency hearing on Wednesday." I stopped the recording. "It's Wednesday today, Cade," I said, my voice lethally quiet. "But my lawyer filed a restraining order on Monday. Your hearing is dead. Your threats are recorded. Your forged document is certified as fraudulent." Lauren was shaking her head, backing toward the kitchen. "No, no, no. You're lying, Cade. Do something." Cade didn't speak. He was looking at me, but he was really looking at the door. He was calculating. "And Lauren," I said, standing up, "you really should stop touching things." I pulled a small UV blacklight from my pocket, Evan's final prop. I clicked it on. I shined it on the table. Cade's expensive leather portfolio was clean, but the bait paper, the one she had grabbed, the one she had tapped, glowed like a ghost. Her fingerprints were everywhere, a brilliant, damning blue, concentrated right on Article 4C. "It's over," I said. "Get out." And right on cue. My phone, which was still monitoring the garage, began to shriek, a piercing, digital alarm. The CO sensor. My eyes snapped to Lauren. Plan B. She hadn't been yelling. She had been distracting me. My phone shrieked. The piercing digital scream of the carbon monoxide detector, Lauren's face, which had been a mask of rage, collapsed into pure, unadulterated terror. This wasn't her script. "What? What is that?" Cade didn't look scared. He looked furious. He looked trapped. "What did you do?" he snarled, his eyes darting to me, then to the exits. "I didn't do anything, Cade," I said, my voice like ice. "That's the CO detector in the garage, the one I placed on the workbench, the one right next to the propane heater." Lauren looked like she was going to be physically sick. My phone buzzed again. A different alert. A text from the secondary sensor. Garage door side opened. Someone had just run out that door. The accomplice. The person executing Plan B. They must have heard the alarm and fled. Leave before 10:45. They had been in the process. I didn't run. I walked. I moved with the calm precision of a paramedic on a scene. My body cutting through their panic. I walked through the kitchen, Lauren and Cade following me. Two horrified spectators drawn to the disaster they had created. I opened the door to the garage. The smell hit me first. That sickly rotten egg chemical odorant laced into the propane. It was thick. The garage was dark. I hit the light switch. The single fluorescent bulb flickered on, illuminating the scene. I saw it. The large propane tank. The valve was cranked all the way open. Gas was hissing, invisible and deadly, into the confined space, but the heater's fan was not on. I walked over to it. Cade and Lauren stood frozen in the doorway, silhouetted against the kitchen light. I pointed to the wall socket. "You see that?" The fan's plug was dangling, useless. a few inches from the wall. The new, white, tamper-resistant safety outlet I had installed was untouched. Your accomplice couldn't plug it in. Could they? My voice was flat, echoing slightly in the concrete room. They had the key. They turned on the gas. But they couldn't get the plug into the child-proof socket. They couldn't figure out the push-and-twist safety mechanism. I reached over and cranked the propane valve shut. The hissing stopped. "Plan B," I said, turning to face them. "Key to garage. Heater. Leave." Lauren was chalk white. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about." Cade's professional mask was gone. He was just a thug in an expensive suit. He moved, lunging past me, not to attack, but to escape. Back through the kitchen, he was running for the front door. He collided, hard, with the solid chest of a uniformed police officer. "Whoa there! Sir, where are we going in such a hurry?" Two officers from the Beaverton Police Department were standing in the kitchen, my wellness check standby. They had been staged just down the street. They must have heard the CO alarm. "Officer," I said, stepping calmly out of the garage, closing the door firmly behind me. "Thank you for coming. My name is Cassidy Barnes. I'm the one who requested the standby." Manager Barnes, the senior officer, a man named Miller, said. He nodded, his eyes already assessing the scene. He looked at Cade, who was frantically trying to straighten his coat. He looked at Lauren, who was leaning against the refrigerator, looking faint. He looked at the dining room table, covered in papers. "What's going on here?" Miller asked. "That is a slanderous accusation," Cade burst out, finding his voice. "We are here for a voluntary family financial consultation. This woman," he pointed at me, "is deeply unstable. She is paranoid. She is delusional. We are here to help her, and she has taken us hostage." Officer Miller looked at me. I was calm. My pulse was steady. I looked at Cade. He was sweating. "Sir," Miller said to Cade, his voice bored. "Why don't you and I step into the living room, ma'am?" he said to Lauren. "Please stay here in the kitchen, Manager Barnes. If you could remain in the dining room." He separated us. It was clean. It was procedure. The junior officer stood with Lauren, who had sunk into a kitchen chair, her head in her hands. Miller walked with Cade into the living room. I heard the low murmur of Cade's voice, trying to spin his narrative. Miller returned to me a moment later. "He's claiming this is all a misunderstanding," Miller said, his pen hovering over his notepad. "He says you're having a breakdown, and he's a financial advisor trying to de-escalate. What's your side?" I didn't give him a side. I gave him a case file. "Officer," I said, "this is a criminal conspiracy. In my coat pocket is a micro recorder. It contains a sworn audio recording of that man, Cade Rusk, threatening to use a forged medical document to have me professionally discredited if I did not sign a power of attorney." I pointed to my phone on the table. "This phone contains a live recording of the entire meeting tonight, including their confessions. It also contains the logs for the carbon monoxide detector you heard, and the garage door sensor that triggered when their accomplice fled, the accomplice who turned on the gas." I picked up the small UV blacklight. "And this," I said, "is the physical evidence." I clicked it on. I shined the light on the table. Officer Miller's eyes widened. Lauren's fingerprints, a sickly glowing blue, were all over the bait paper. They were concentrated, smeared. Right on the line I had typed, Article 4C, the incapacitation clause. "She held that paper," I said. "She pointed to that exact clause. She knew what it was. Her fingerprints are marked." I then pointed the light at Cade's sleek, expensive portfolio. "Those are his, the official documents. I'd be willing to bet her prints are on his incapacitation clauses, too." Miller didn't touch anything. He pulled on a pair of nitrile gloves. "This is now a potential crime scene." He nodded to his partner in the living room. "Haynes, read him his rights." We heard Haynes's voice, clear and formal. "Mr. Rusk, you have the right to remain silent." Cade's voice exploded. I am a financial advisor. I haven't done anything, I was just advising. This is harassment. I am a client services director. I'll have your badge for this. Sir, Haynes's voice cut him off. You have the right to an attorney. Please place your phone, your wallet, and that portfolio on the coffee table. Now. My phone buzzed. A text from Evan. I showed the screen to Officer Miller. This is from my forensics expert. It's a copy of the server logs from the Washington County Court. It proves the forged medical document, the one Cade called a template, was uploaded to the court servers from an IP address registered to Lauren Hart's home. It shows the financial documents were uploaded from a VPN belonging to Pinegate Fiduciary in Boston. They didn't just advise, officer, they filed. Miller read the text, his expression hardening. He went to my mother's bedroom door and knocked gently. Ma'am, this is the Beaverton Police. My name is Officer Miller. Are you all right in there? The door unlocked. Mom emerged, pale but safe. I'm fine. I heard the alarm. It's okay, Mom, I said. It's over. Just then, Tasha, my neighbor, came walking right in the open front door. I heard a siren and that awful alarm from my house, she said, her nurse's eyes taking in the scene. Is everyone okay? Miller looked at her. You were here earlier, ma'am. Yes, officer, Tasha said, her voice calm, professional, a perfect neutral witness. I stopped by at 6:30 p.m. I saw Ms. Hart and that gentleman, she pointed at Cade in the living room, sitting at the table with Cassidy. They were signing some papers. It was all very orderly. No one was yelling. Miller nodded. Her testimony was gold. It proved they were here willingly. It proved the meeting was about signing papers. It destroyed Cade's paranoid hostage narrative. The officer went into the garage himself. He came back a minute later, writing in his notepad. I am noting a strong odor of propane, he said, his voice now official, dictatorial. I am noting the tank valve was in the open position. I am also noting the fan plug is disconnected, and the wall socket is a tamper-resistant model that appears newly installed. He looked at me. I installed it this afternoon, I said. After I discovered their Plan B notes. You discovered a plot to harm you, and you set a trap, he stated. I discovered a plot to harm me, I corrected. And I documented it. Miller nodded. He took a large evidence bag. He carefully, using his gloved hands, slid Cade's entire expensive portfolio into it. What's this? It's his Pinegate Transitions Pack, I said. According to my sister's notes, it contains an emergency scenario guide. I think you'll find it very informative. He bagged my UV-dusted paper in the light. He bagged the recorders. He bagged the casserole dish. He looked at Cade, who was sitting, defeated, on my mother's couch. He looked at Lauren, who was weeping silently into her hands. You two are not under arrest, yet, he said. But you are not to leave town. You are not to contact, by any means, Cassidy Barnes or Elaine Barnes. You are not to access any of their accounts. A judge will be reviewing this full report tonight. You will both be served subpoenas for an emergency hearing tomorrow morning at the Washington County Courthouse. A patrol car will be posted outside this residence all night. Do you understand? Cade just nodded, his face gray. Lauren couldn't even speak. Get your personal items, Miller commanded, and get out. Cade grabbed his coat. Lauren, sniffing, grabbed her purse. They walked out the front door, past the police cruiser, their steps heavy. They didn't look at each other. Miller turned to me. My partner will stay parked out front. You'll be safe tonight. You, your attorney, and your forensics expert. You built a perfect, airtight case. Manager Barnes. The district attorney is going to love this. He handed me a card with a case number. We'll see them in court. I locked the door behind him. The deadbolt sliding home was the loudest sound I had ever heard. I turned. My mother was standing by the sink, looking at the half-eaten casserole on the counter. It's over, Mom. She just looked at me, her eyes hollow. That casserole, she whispered, her voice breaking. That was my recipe. She used my recipe. I didn't know what to say. I just put my arms around her. The alarm on my phone was finally silent. The air in the house was clear. The Washington County Courthouse was cold, the air smelling of floor wax and stale coffee. It was not a grand trial, just an emergency proceeding in a functional, gray room, but it felt like the end of the world. Maya Corley was a shark in her element. She stood, and the room seemed to center on her. Cade and Lauren sat at the opposite table, flanked by a high-priced lawyer who already looked exhausted. They looked smaller here. The power they'd wielded in my mother's dining room was gone. "Your Honor," Maya began, her voice a clean, sharp blade. "We are not here today to mediate a family spat. We are here to stop a criminal enterprise." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She began to submit the evidence, one piece at a time, each one a nail in their coffin. "Exhibit A," she said, "a sworn affidavit from the administrator of the Riverside Neuro Clinic, confirming that the document filed with this court by the petitioners is a forgery. It confirms Suite 415 does not exist, and the doctor's signature is fraudulent." Cade's lawyer stood up. "Objection, Your Honor. That document was a mere template, an illustrative—" "Overruled," the judge, a sharp-eyed woman, snapped without looking at him. "It was filed with my court. It is not a template. It is evidence. Continue, Ms. Corley." "Exhibit B," Maya said. "The server logs from this court's own e-filing portal. They show the forged document was uploaded from a residential IP address registered to the petitioner, Lauren Hart, Exhibit C. The financial petitions were uploaded minutes later from an IP address belonging to the Boston headquarters of Pinegate Fiduciary, linking Mr. Rusk directly to the fraudulent filing." Cade, who had been staring straight ahead, flinched. "Exhibit D, the notarized, handwritten statement from the victim, Elaine Barnes, confirming her signature was also forged on a separate consent form. Exhibit E, the rental car agreement for the vehicle seen at my client's home, paid for by a corporate card in Mr. Cade Rusk's name. Exhibit F, the full police report, including the analysis of the tampered propane heater and the log from the carbon monoxide detector." The room was silent. Lauren's lawyer rose, his face pale. "Your Honor," he said, trying to sound reasonable, This is a grotesque mischaracterization. Ms. Hart was simply worried about her elderly mother, worried about her sister. Ms. Barnes, who works a high-stress, deeply traumatic job as a paramedic, she was merely trying to help them. Mr. Rusk was only advising on a complex family matter." The judge looked at him, then at Maya. "Ms. Corley, the police report mentions audio recordings." "It does, Your Honor," Maya said. "With the court's permission, I would like to play 2 short excerpts. The first is from Mr. Rusk's consultation with my client in a public coffee shop." She hit the play button. Cade's smooth, sterile voice filled the courtroom. "In Path 2, you fight this, and then we are forced to wonder why, as the file suggests. You're suffering from emotional instability. That template isn't a template anymore. It becomes a piece of evidence. Your employer, Cascade Metro EMS, would be notified. We would, of course, prefer to avoid filing for an emergency hearing on Wednesday." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Today is Wednesday," she stated flatly. "He was threatening to use a forged document to extort your client." "He was, Your Honor," Maya agreed. "And now, the second recording, from last night, from the petitioner's attempt to have my client sign the documents under duress." Maya played the clip. First, Lauren's voice, high and furious. "It's my turn to control things." Then Cade's, a low, cold whisper. "Sign the papers. Cassidy, make it clean." And finally, my own clean for who? Lauren let out a small, strangled sob. Cade's lawyer put his head in his hands. The judge looked at Cade. Mr. Rusk, this court's file also shows that your petitioner, Ms. Hart, is listed as a community liaison, volunteer for your firm. Pinegate, are you in the habit of advising your own volunteers on how to file fraudulent documents against their families? Your Honor, that is an informal title, Cade began, his voice no longer smooth. It was cracking. It is a conflict of interest, Mr. Rusk, the judge said. It is collusion. Before Cade could respond, a different man stood up, the assistant district attorney, summoned by Officer Miller's report. Your Honor, if I may, the DA said, in light of these recordings, the state has pertinent information. We received an anonymous package from a whistleblower inside Pinegate Fiduciary's Boston office late last night. Cade Rusk went white. It appears Mr. Rusk's template was not a one-time error, the DA continued, holding up a thin booklet. This is an internal Pinegate training manual. It is titled, The Article 4C Playbook Asset Transition for Incapacitation Scenarios. It specifically details a strategy for identifying and targeting family members in high-stress professions, first responders, military, doctors, and leveraging their occupational stress to build a case for temporary incapacitation and accelerated asset seizure. The room was utterly still. This wasn't just Cade. This was the entire company. He wasn't a rogue agent. He was a salesman following a script. Cade's lawyer shot to his feet. He had a whispered, frantic conference with Cade. Cade looked at Lauren, his eyes filled with pure, unadulterated venom. He nodded. Your Honor, Cade's lawyer said, his voice now grim. Given this revelation, my client, Mr. Rusk, wishes to cooperate fully with the district attorney's office. He is prepared to testify that he was acting on information and materials provided by his client, Ms. Hart. She was the one who initiated the contact. She was the one who provided the specimen signature of her sister, which she claimed came from old family tax records she had access to. Mr. Rusk was merely facilitating his client's stated wishes. The bus was loud as it rolled over my sister. You liar, Lauren shrieked, lunging across the table. You told me it was legal. You told me she was sick. You told me it was just paperwork. Order, the judge yelled, banging her gavel. Order in this court. Lauren collapsed into her chair, her entire life imploding. The judge looked at the chaos, her face a mask of cold fury. That is enough, she said. This is not a family misunderstanding. This is a predatory criminal conspiracy, and it ends today. All petitions by Lauren Hart and Pinegate Fiduciary for guardianship, conservatorship, or power of attorney over Elaine Barnes and Cassidy Barnes are hereby dismissed, with extreme prejudice. This court finds more than probable cause for multiple felonies. I am referring this entire case file, the recordings, the police report, the forged documents, the whistleblower's playbook, and the testimony of Mr. Rusk to the district attorney for immediate criminal investigation into conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, insurance fraud, and attempted assault. Ms. Elaine Barnes, the judge said, her voice softening for the first time as she looked at my mother. Ma'am, are you of sound mind today? My mother, who had been sitting beside me, trembling, sat up straight. Yes, Your Honor, I am. Good. Ms. Corley, I trust you have your client's actual wishes on file. We do, Your Honor, Maya said, holding up a fresh document, a new durable power of attorney for Elaine Barnes, signed in my office this morning, witnessed and notarized. It names her daughter, Cassidy, as her sole and immediate proxy. We are filing it with the clerk as we speak. The judge nodded. Good. Cade Rusk, Lauren Hart, you will be escorted from this courtroom to the district attorney's office. Do not contact the Barnes family. Do not access any accounts. You are done. We walked out of the courthouse into the bright, cold light. My mother was clutching my arm. I felt nothing, not joy, not victory, just quiet, empty. As we reached the car, My phone buzzed. A text from Maya. DA just informed me. A federal judge in Boston just signed a warrant based on the DA's evidence and the whistleblower's packet. Pinegate Fiduciary is being audited, and all assets connected to the Hart Legacy RE Trust are frozen, effective immediately. It was over. The entire network was collapsing. I drove Mom home. I tucked her into her bed. I made her tea. I sat with her until she fell asleep. I did not celebrate. I did not cry. I went to my own apartment. I checked the new deadbolts. They were solid. I went into my bedroom, and I put on my blue uniform. I fastened the radio to my belt. I checked the batteries in my stethoscope. I put my shears in my pocket. The familiar weight was a comfort. It was the only thing that felt real. I was sitting in the ambulance, checking the jump bag, the sterile scent of antiseptic wipes filling my lungs, when my phone buzzed one last time. It was from Evan. The new deadbolts are working perfectly. Check the logs. No unauthorized attempts since last night. I looked at the message, and I smiled. It was small. It was tired, but it was mine. I had changed the locks on my house, and in that courtroom, I had finally changed the locks on my heart. I don't know if I will ever forgive Lauren. I don't know if I'm built that way, but I won't let her hatred, or Cade's greed, live in my head anymore. I won't pay their rent. The radio crackled to life. A multi-car collision. Interstate 5. I clicked the receiver. Dispatch. This is Cascade 4. We are on our way. Thank you for listening to my story. Please comment below and let us know where you're listening from. I'd love to connect with you and hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories and like this video. You can also support us by hitting the hype button, so this story can be heard by even more people.